Hi, Professor.
Hey, how's it going?
It's good. I was just wondering if you saw my email about the links that you had for the reading that was due today.
Um, these videos.
Yeah, the I'm pretty sure it was the second link. The both links led to the second video
Why did
only.
the human brain evolve to be so big?
Yeah, they both led to
Okay.
that.
Okay. How about the NPR article? Did that link
Oh,
work?
that one was good. Yeah, that one was
Okay,
fine.
okay. All right. So you know what? I'm unlucky, but I would say these are the two most important readings. So
Wow, okay.
yeah, thank you for letting me know about that.
Oh, of course, of course.
So, good afternoon, Homo sapiens. Welcome to our second class session of Hdev 416, Society to Synapses. I said second class session. I'm sorry. Second week. I am going to go off cam because I'm having a day. Uh, my it's for developmental reasons. My eldest child is moving out of the house and we're packing and I'm a mess. But that's why we're starting on chat. I want to have you guys discuss the most interesting thing you learned this week and why it was the most interesting thing to you. So, what do I mean by interesting? It could be something just surprising that blew your mind, or it could be something you found especially relevant. So, this could be relevant to the themes of human development. This could be relevant to the course themes, the interplay between neural relation or neural structure and social structure. It could be something that was you just thought was like relevant to your personal life, your own nervous system, or your future career. So we're going to take about 5 minutes. Answer in the chat for everyone to share. What do you think was the most interesting thing you learned this week and why? So I'll be back in 5 minutes to talk about this with you. Oh, yes. Sorry to everyone about the broken link in the content you were supposed to study. We're only discussing the NPR piece and why did the human brain evolve to be so big? So if you haven't had a chance to share your thought in the discussion, just go ahead and throw it up in the chat for us to share, and you can keep adding. So a lot of people were really intrigued by this concept that we got from the NPR piece of how we can essentially break the brain down into three big layers. And Sapolsky talks about this too. Um, he uses the convention of the neuroscientist Paul MacLean to layer the numbers off one, two, and three, with one being the most ancient, two being the mammalian layer that was second to evolve, and three being the big, beautiful cortex that makes humans human. And I told you last time that we are going to talk about animals more in this course than in any other human development course. And this week was a great example. And one thing that I hope came across is how much we carry the legacy of our ancestors in every way across the nervous system, top to bottom. So in the first class session, we had this thought experiment where we talked about what it would be like if Moray donated his brain to me in the hypothetical, human brain transplant. And I told you that that new creature with Moray's central nervous system, brain and spinal cord, might act really differently because of this peripheral nervous system, which in this class we're going to colloquially call layer zero. And even though the brain and central nervous system gets most of the attention in the study of human development and the brain, we're not going to ignore layer zero. We're actually going to spend all of week 3 talking about this layer zero, one and two, three architecture that we share with all mammals. And we're going to adopt a class mammal to help us discuss that. Two, in fact, a pair of genetically identical cats. And the reason we're choosing cats as our class mammal to talk about is that number one, I own a couple of cats. And number two, um, the cat is a completely neurotypical mammal. In other words, its brain is exactly as big as you would expect it to be based on its body size. So in neuroscience, we use this heuristic called the encephalization quotient, which is just a measure of how big an animal's brain is compared to its body size. And we learned from the videos that the human being has the highest encephalization quotient of any animal that has ever been alive, us Homo sapiens. Okay, so thank you for your discussion about what was interesting. I'm going to read all your comments carefully and maybe pick up on a few threads. So last time, a couple of people stayed after class to ask questions, and the biggest question I got was about how I'm scoring participation. So what you see on the screen here is how I score participation in this class. So this is my first semester teaching the topic. So I go back and review the class video. I'm mainly honestly looking at, what did I say? But I do mark off my comments that I get out loud, and I mark off my comments that I get on the chat. And then as you can see, if someone's absent or something, then they're unable to participate. I take notes for examples we might want to use in the future. Okay. The first thing I want to make sure we do is preview the readings for next time. Um, the biggest reason that I want to be sure that I talk about this is that I owe you an update for the reading list for Unit 1. I misprinted the page numbers. So on the screen, you're seeing it correct. We're going to be reading Brain and Behavior, page 37 through 50. And the most important section to focus on, what we'll be discussing first, is this section on page 2 of the reading where it gets into the autonomic nervous system, because that's part of that layer zero, one of our peripheral nervous systems. This reading goes on to talk about layers 1, 2, and 3, and it's going to take us a couple of weeks to discuss those layers completely. So you can pace yourself that way. Please explore the lab of Elaine Tsao, who studies how the microbes in our gut affect our mood, brain, health, and digestion. We'll be talking about that. And then we're finally delving into brain and behavior, and we're going to talk about the brains of animals and the fetal brain development. Okay, so really good news for us pedagogically in the class this semester. I have obtained consent to from an example Homo sapien that we can discuss in the course. So, an example Homo sapiens. So the plural of Homo sapien is Homo sapiens. So if you want to sound like real smart in a crowd, just whip that out. So our example Homo sapiens is going to be this young man, Archimedes Cook. Archimedes was born in the year 2007. Incidentally, that is the year the iPhone came out. And Archimedes turned 18 yesterday, here in 2025. And as you may have guessed by looking at the picture here, it is I, Melissa Cook, who is the mother of Archimedes. And that is why I have consent from this awesome young man to be our example Homo sapiens in this class. Um, so in my very favorite course that I took in grad school at UCLA, on the first day of the semester, my favorite professor, who was teaching cross-cultural socialization of childhood, asked us this question. He said, I want you to imagine we have an example human baby. So here we have our example Homo sapiens, Archimedes Cook, our example human baby. We can see him on the screen. And he asked, what matters most to how this Homo sapiens baby turns out? What single thing matters the absolute most? So this room was full of graduate students, interdisciplinary. It was an anthropology course. I was there from the Graduate School of Education and Information Sciences. There were folks from psychology, all kinds of disciplines. And what I want you guys to do is throw an answer up in the chat. What do you think I heard in the room that day when my awesome professor asked this question? What matters most to how this Homo sapiens baby turns out? What are some of the things you think people probably said? Environment, parental presence, culture, culture, culture. Culture. Okay, I'm going to be honest with you guys. I was very overwhelmed on this early day in graduate school. A stable living situation. Thank you, thank you. I think that Jasmine's answer, stable living situation, and Ashley saying, presence of a caregiver, Alejandro saying social environment. That's probably what I had to say. Something like the family that the baby's born into is probably what I had to say if I was bold enough to speak up. I think I was. But what my professor said, which blew a lot of minds in the room that day, was that the number one thing that matters for how this Homo sapien turns out is culture. And great for all the foreshadowing that we got in the chat. Um, now, you can believe my professor or not, but we're going to examine this question with our example Homo sapien, Homo sapiens. Okay, I have trouble with that plural this semester. And the reason that Archimedes makes such a great example Homo sapiens for us, besides the fact that I have access to him and he has agreed to come to class and be interviewed in the unit on adolescence if we want, is that he is part of a culture that our lives all touch, that we can relate to. So Archimedes is coming of age in fall 2025 in the greater LA area. So he's existing in this beautiful moment after Taylor Swift's engagement, but before the Olympics. And so that means that when it comes to this big picture culture that we talked about last time, that's so important for understanding things like how neural structure shapes the mind, things like how interpersonal interaction shapes the mind. We don't all in this course come to this room with the same culture. We know that. We have different families of origin. We have access to different cultural experiences, but we are all convening from the greater Long Beach area here on the Zoom. And so Archimedes shares our culture. And in particular today, as we discuss the evolution of the brain, we're really focused on the evolutionary forces that, honestly shape both the culture of the greater LA area in 2025 and the Paleolithic culture, which our class hero Simi grew up in. So we're going to contrast over the course of the semester these two specific cultures, 2025 LA, that we all know about, with Paleolithic culture, which we don't all know about, but we're learning about together. So I want to repeat something that my awesome professor said to me on that day when he was defining this popular culture, this culture of the moment that we can all relate to. He called it weird. Has anyone heard the acronym weird culture in your studies of human development? Just say yes on chat if you have. Okay, so this is an unfamiliar concept. So let's go through it in detail. So weird is an acronym that was devised by the anthropologist Joseph Heinrich, and it is used to describe modern Western culture, and we will use it in this course. So we're going to refer to the our current culture, fall 2025 in the greater LA area, as a weird culture. Weird stands number one for Western. So we are educated in the Western canon. We studied things like the ancient Greeks, that Plato's probably quoted in our textbook. And Archimedes too comes from this Western tradition. He's read Portrait of Dorian Gray and other canon items. Okay, so Archimedes is also part of this educated culture. Now he's an interesting Homo sapiens because he chose to end his time in compulsory schooling, K through 12 schooling, a year and a half early. He pieced out with a GED in 2023. But he's still part of a very educated culture if we think globally about what it means to be a citizen of the United States and have access to free and furthermore compulsory K through 12 education. He's also exposed to the culture of his parents, one of whom is a neuroscience professor. Okay, so Archimedes and us, because we're Western college students or professors in the greater LA area, we are weird, we are Western, we are educated, we are industrialized, we are hyper industrialized. Just think about the port in Long Beach. Think about what it looks like, all those ships coming in and out, all those goods moving on the earth. We are as more industrialized than any humans have ever been in human history. We are rich, and I'm speaking on a global level, comparing North America with the global South. We are rich. And finally, we are democratic. Now, this is based on the United States 250-year history. You can argue offline about whether we are a democratic country today, but I encourage you to do that on your own time, not while we're paying for a college class. So does weird culture make sense? Give me 0, 1, 2. 2 is it makes complete sense. 1 is I'm kind of getting it. 0 is I don't know what you meant, Dr. Cook. Okay. Okay, great. So we have a lot of 2s. That is absolutely perfect to be getting on with. And 1 is fine as well. Okay. All right. So what I want to do next is kind of pick up where we left off last time. The main things I want to accomplish in the rest of the class are to do a little practice, another practice for discussion day, and to continue our discussion of Simi's Paleolithic social world. So you recall from last time that we created this class hero, this heroic young woman named Simi, who lived in the Chumash Valley 20,000 years ago, and painted portraits much like this. Now, Simi is a hero. She has a valley named after her to this day. So imbue Simi with greatness as we think through these examples. And the question I posed to you last time, I would like a volunteer to read for us, please.
I could do that.
Oh, thank you, volunteers. Let's just have one.
Did you want me to read like the whole thing or just the
Yeah,
bolded?
please read the screen.
Okay. Simi is our class hero. She is a legend in her tribe for years to come. A valley bears her name to this day. What did Simi's brain need to do to contribute to her kinship's group successes? And what social skills did she need?
So we started this conversation last time, and forgive me, I don't remember who made this point, but the first point we got up was that Simi would have needed good communication skills. Um, and, I'm going to invite you to imagine Simi doing heroic things and to use some of the terms that we are pulling from our reading Behave. So in Behave, we have this idea that any human behavior could be moral or amoral. And we know Simi does heroic things for her Shumash tribe of about 150 hunter-gatherers. So she's done a lot of these wonderful behaviors. And we're going to be talking about what in Simi allowed her to do these wonderful heroic behaviors. And these are some of the emotions that Sapolsky name checks in our reading so far. And Simi's heroic moment could have been spurred by any of these. Obviously, she could have had a great heroic moment out of love, altruism, cooperation. But maybe she defended the tribe from attackers. Maybe it was a moment of maternal aggression that made sure her descendants survived. We don't even know. So let that be a background as we consider what Simi's brain needed to do. So I'm going to tell you a little bit more about the economic world of the Paleolithic human. Last time we discussed this scene, which y'all interpreted correctly as some sort of trade. I made the important point that Simi was a big game hunter. And this has developmental implications. So this is really cool. One thing that we'll talk about in the last lecture in the course when we talk about the aging brain is that motor skills that we teach ourselves in childhood and adolescence often are some of the last things to go when we experience natural age-related cognitive decline. So the study that I'm thinking of was done with modern humans who had learned to juggle. And they found that even in old age, that capacity for juggling persisted and that there were brain changes in octogenarian jugglers. So folks who are in their last stage of life who used to juggle, we can still see brain changes in the cortex based on that acquired skill. So that's something we kind of already know about Simi. All right, so let me tell you a little bit more about the hustle of the Shumash in this time period. And I want to turn it over to you then to hear some more about what Simi's brain needed to be like socially for her to be such an awesome member of the tribe. So Simi's people group lived off acorns, which are abundant around here in SoCal. And here in this picture, you can see these are Paleolithic Chumash acorn grinding pits. Here are the hands of some modern Chumash. Making use of acorns is really complex. You gotta get the outer hull off, and you actually have to soak the seeds in a chemical called lime that has to be gathered in order to get the flour because it has arsenic in it without that process going. So just with what I've added to your knowledge of the Paleolithic social world, with this acorn production hustle that Simi's whole kinship group had to be involved in for her to survive, what other features do you think Simi's brain needed? Throw an answer in the chat. So we know she needed good communication and social intelligence. Good motor function, absolutely. Strength, deep knowledge of the environment. Giselle, that's a really important point. And we would know that to obtain that knowledge, she would need to be, an expert at wayfinding, navigation, all the things that our GPS does for us these days. Patience. Yeah, it would absolutely take patience to do this. And now some of the process would be aided Because the process would be socially mediated. So what you notice here about these grinding holes is that there's not just one. There's a whole bunch because the Shumash, and remember, men and women were involved in hunting, men and women were involved in gathering, but some group of Shumash, probably elderly folks, would sit around with the kids of the tribe and grind these acorns while the young, athletic hunter aged folks, much like the traditional college age student, would be out on the sea in the field. So, um, Simi would have to have learned this. What would her brain need to have learned this skill of making use of acorns? Yes, efficiency. Yes, memory. Yes, critical thinking. Yes, resourceful. Social cooperation from Azul. Yes, and I want to add yet another detail about Simi's social world that really backs up what Azul just said. Social cooperation. So Simi would have to be socially intelligent in a way that gave her skills with cooperation. And one reason for that is because while she's living in a pre-agrarian Paleolithic culture, so we are not a farming people, the Chumash at this time, we're not a farming people. But they did engage in land management practices, such as cultural burning, which is practiced by First Peoples and Native American groups today. And it ensures a better harvest in the future. So the acorn trees benefit from controlled burn practices that help manage the overall forest land throughout the resource pool that Simi's tribe had to pull from. So, in order to do this cultural burning, the whole tribe would have coordinated on some sort of festival day. Kids would have been involved. Able-bodied folks would have been involved. And so, what kinds of knowledge do you think Simi would have needed on this particular day? It would be an annual festival. What would her and her other Paleolithic folks' brains need to do to manage cultural burning? You can throw a message in the chat. Okay, problem solving. Absolutely. We are going to have problems out here in the field. We're going to set little fires that we didn't mean to set. We have got to know how to use all our tools. We need our flint. We absolutely need problem solving. And that's coming from that layer 3. Now we've also got Irving said tradition. Elijah said caution, absolutely. Ecological knowledge, collective learning. So this is coming from Azul, collective learning. So we need culture. We need cultural ways, and we need a brain that can learn these cultural ways. And this brings us to the big idea, I think, from the readings and videos we studied to lead into this discussion, which was on the final screen of the last video. I said that the human brain is essentially a machine for acquiring culture. And Simi's brain absolutely would have had to have been for her to be successful in that Paleolithic era. All right, this is the perfect moment for a 5-minute break. So everybody just take your break and we'll come back at 1:05 to continue with class. Thank you so far. Okay, hi. Okay, I know I said I wasn't going to come on video, but I am here because I want to continue our little tradition of me getting to know you by hearing from some of you what your favorite course in human development was and why. Can I hear from Juliana? Not Juliana, but Juliana? Okay. How about, and please let me know if I'm getting your name right. Can I hear from Anahi D? How about Azul? Your favorite class in human development so far? Okay. How about Jocelyn?
Hi, my favorite HTEP class that I've taken so far was last semester. It was called qualitative methods. The reason why I like this one is because I actually got to choose and pick like an important matter that was going on in our society and
Yeah.
research about it throughout the whole semester. So, and what I did it was about the sorry, I'm having like a little brain fart. It was the mass deportations that were going on in my society, and so I found it really interesting, and I was able to relate to it a lot, and it was very interesting to actually do and research something about school about something that I really cared about.
Yeah. Okay. Awesome. Awesome. I love that. That's the second time qualitative methods have come up. Now I don't know who has spoken on this topic before, but Angela, have I not heard from you?
Yeah, you haven't heard it from me.
Okay.
Um, my favorite HDEV course I think would be HDEV 357. So it talked about like adulthood and aging, and what I liked about it was the fact that I learned a lot about well, when I took it I was 19. So I learned a lot about, as I entered my 20s and what I could expect from my 20s and how to go about certain things. Yeah.
Okay. Awesome. Yeah. Okay. So our example human Archimedes could probably benefit from that that course. Can I get a volunteer who hasn't answered this question to jump on and give me one more?
Me, I'm back. I'm sorry.
Okay. Yes. Okay. Who's speaking?
Azul?
Azul. Let's do Azul and then Irving.
Okay, I'm so sorry. I tried like unattaching my keyboard and the Zoom just went, it was just bad timing. It went away.
It's gonna
Um,
happen to me at some point in this semester, and then y'all will all forgive me. So take it
yeah.
away.
I was gonna be the third qualitative methods, but my second favorite was there was like a digital living and dying class that I took, I think 2 springs ago. It was super cool. It was an elective course. I think it's 404. But yeah, it was super deep. It's living and dying, so it was different. But
Okay.
yeah, it was awesome. I highly recommend.
Okay. All right. So a commercial for that one. I find that very interesting, Azul, that you bring that up because I also asked my psychology students, what they hope the class will answer. And one question that came up this semester was that people want to know about the neuroscience of death. Um, People want to know about the neuroscience of death and near-death experiences. So maybe that's something we'll get to. The only thing I know is that people do a drug. I forget what it's called. It comes from toads. DMT, and this is the chemical that manifests in the brain in a near-death experience. Do I recommend you do DMT? No, I do not. But I can find out more about the neuroscience of death if we want to pick up on that. Oh, okay. And you know what, Irving, let's get to you next time because Juliana's back. Service is lagging, but Juliana shares that their favorite course in human development was child and adolescent, and due to learning how children grow, change, and develop through different stages. So I'm counting on you guys who have this rich background in development to bring it with you and carry it forward through this course. Okay, so we're just going to spend a few more minutes on this question of our hero Simi's social world and what qualities she might have had to make her so heroic. So another big thing, I believe we touched on this last time, that Simi's people group needed to do to survive as a kinship group was they had to make use of the sea. And they had to do this in a lot of rich and beautiful and meaningful ways. So this right here is a piece of Paleolithic art. It is not from Simi's part of the world. It is from a different part of the world, but this is one of the very earliest pieces of Paleolithic art that we have. To look at as anthropologists. And what scientists believe we're looking at here is a boat and oars. So this seafaring culture was absolutely essential to Simi's people group. And I showed you last time that this pictograph, which depicts boats. So this is a boat. These are little
Excuse me, Professor.
outriggers. Yes.
I don't think we can see anything.
Oh my gosh. Okay. Let's. So thank you so much. Okay, so making use of the sea. This is our Paleolithic stone carving that I wanted to show you. These are abalone that the Chumash would have been eating. And these are modern day Chumash in a traditional canoe. Okay, so what else did Simi, let's assume she was a wonderful fisherwoman and was out on these canoes with other healthy young people in the tribe, getting those healthy sea resources that she needed for her kinship group to survive. So what did Simi's social brain need to do to be a great oars person or fisherman on this this spearfishing that she would have been engaged in? Is there anything to add, building off what we've said so far? Motor skills and coordination, absolutely. So when we get into layer 1 in the course next week, you're going to learn a lot about the somatic nervous system that allows movement like this. And one thing we learned in our study of the evolution of the brain is that the very first reason that brains evolved at all, and this will be reinforced by our text, was just to control the movement of an animal body. So what you see these Chumash humans doing in this boat is creating something that's better than one Homo sapiens body. They're creating this seafaring vessel. They have the knowledge to build. Yes, I agree with Giselle. They had to have language to communicate. And we actually recall from last time, we don't know which evolved first in human history, language or music. So out on that boat, Simi and her tribespeople might have been using songs, rhythmic vocalizations to get their oars in gear, but we know that they were doing co-regulation. So I haven't talked about co-regulation in the course yet. Our next foundation text, the reading that we're going to be doing for our class on the 11th of September, is about co-regulation. But it's a process by which all mammals coordinate their nervous system. So we're going to learn about how co-regulation is established, and that comes about in dyadic pairs. And we can use the example dyadic pair of me and my son Archimedes. So for those of you, and there were many, who had this core question of how do our early relationships and life experience shape our relationships down the line, you're going to want to pay really close attention to this idea of co-regulation, because it's the beginning of the story of attachment, of all of these later social behaviors that we know to be moderated by early life experience. Azul also mentioned wayfinding. Yes, absolutely. So we'll talk about the specific region of the layer 2 limbic system that is involved in wayfinding. It is the hippocampus, and it's the brain region that Behaves author Sapolsky studies in his lab. And one thing we'll learn in the course is that the hippocampus displays very obvious structural changes that we can see on a brain scan based on life experience. And we know this from the study of London cabbies. So I don't know if anyone has taken a taxi in London, but you've taken a taxi somewhere. And we know that, especially in the era before GPS, wayfinding was crucial to success. So London cabbies have to take this rigorous taxi cab certification exam where they have to know the streets of this medieval city like the back of their hand because they don't use GPS. And so we can look at the hippocampi of London cabbies, and we can see that their right hippocampus, deep in the brain, is thicker, juicier, meatier, sucking down more oxygen and more glucose, and it's just a heftier brain region than the rest of us who are driving around with GPS in our cars. So that's just a little commercial for more that we can get into as we discuss cultural neuroscience. Okay, so there's one thing my psych students noticed about Simi and her family that no one has mentioned so far. And the first thing they noticed, I think the first thing we noticed was this basket that Simi has where she's gathered resources. We also notice, I'm going to ask you guys, just looking at this family, what socioeconomic status do you think Simi and her family occupied amongst the Shumash? Does anyone have a guess based on anything we can see here?
I think they might have been more like higher ranking status just because of the jewelry or like shells around their arms and like on the man and seeing there's necklaces and um facial designs. From what I know in my previous anthropology classes, that was more common in like higher status
Yeah.
native groups.
Yeah. And Giselle also was saying the same thing. And what my psych student zeroed in on was how decorated this family is. And one thing that will enhance your knowledge of Simi's social world is when I tell you that these shell beads that you see around her neck were the primary form of currency for the Chumash in the Paleolithic era. So being able to manufacture, keep, and trade with these shell beads was really important. And yes, the markings on their face. So one thing we'll learn is that one of the first things we do as human beings, when we have a little extra time, once we're fed for the day, is we make art. And we do it for all kinds of reasons, most of them cultural. So we see that this is a family that has time to invest in art, fashion. And what do you guys see in Simi's child's hand? Can anyone make out what we're looking at there?
Is it a brush?
I guess it might be. I have seen this sculpture in person at the Santa Barbara Museum of Natural History, and what it looked like to me there was a little piece of bread, a little piece of acorn flour bread. So that's another indication that we're looking at a wealthy family, that our toddler here is wandering around with food in hand. So this is definitely Simi is able to be raising her offspring in a really enriched social environment. She's living at a good time when the tribe is thriving and they have all these resources. Okay, so we have a couple minutes left. I want to do another practice discussion. As you know, we're going to have discussion days in this class where we take some of your student questions and we use what we know in the class so far to try to discuss them. And for some of the questions, we might not be able to get a complete answer. So, for instance, Alana asked, would early life, teenage and pre-teenage relationships, romantic or otherwise, have an impact on the way an individual's brain is wired? So we're definitely going to answer this question. And we can start answering it in Unit 1 after we've learned about co-regulation. But it might be rich and fruitful to come back to Alana's question again at the end of the course once we know even more about the neuroscience of attachment and relationships. So just for me to continue to get calibrated to us as a discussion group, I want to have a practice discussion over a fact that we learned in the readings from last time. So this is a question asked by a past student of mine, Aisha. And on the first day of class, she wanted to know, how many calories does your brain need in a day? So first of all, we're going to start our discussion off with just a quick check of the memory. Does anybody remember? And I pitched it as a proportion. So, 1/2, 1/3, 1/5, 1/1000th. What proportion of the calories that you need in a day go to fueling the brain? Does anyone remember?
It was 20% of your brain, right? So 1/5.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you. 1/5. And this is by far the most calorically expensive brain running on the face of the planet Earth, except for maybe AI. That I don't know. It apparently takes a lot of resources. But for an organism having one body organ, the brain is only like 0.02% of your body by weight. Suck down fully 1/5 of those hard-won calories, that you were grinding acorns and going fishing for. That is a big commitment. And as you guys mentioned when we talked about, the evolution of the Paleolithic brain, I think it was Aiden who mentioned, like, there's so much, you know, uh, well, okay, this fact that the brain is calorically expensive, it has implications for the topics we've been discussing about. So it has implications for Simi's kinship group survival, and it has implications for the processes of brain evolution that shaped both Simi's cultural group and Archimedes' cultural group, our two example Homo sapiens. So I want to open the floor to just anyone with thoughts. What are the implications of this fact we learned that 1/5 of the calories that you need in a day go directly to feeding your brain? Thoughts?
I think the reason why our brain needs so much calories is because there's a lot of unconscious processes that our brain is in charge of that we don't necessarily think about, but still need to get done. And our brain needs fat in order to function. Um, not sure why, I just know it needs that. Um, and of course, like critical thinking, like just going through like our day to day takes a lot of brain power to get through the day well, especially like not just on a survival level, but like culturally, like not being weird, not letting your impulsive thoughts win.
Yes, yes. And what you're going to learn in the course is that the brain region that helps you not be weird and not let your impulsive thoughts win is the prefrontal cortex. And that actually is the brain region that is the most calorically expensive to run. And we'll talk about the implications of that. Aiden also had a thought. Can you jump in?
Yeah, it was just kind of going off of that a lot. It's like when you think about the individual like physiological things going on in your brain, it's like, yeah, like you wake up and like you stub your toe, like, and yeah, you get really angry about it, but it's like your body is producing every last little hormone, every little synapse is working to absorb those kinds of things, like innumerable times, like throughout your brain at once. And it's like, even though, like you were saying, like the stuff that you don't even think about, it's like, yeah, you're like stressed about like getting to your class, but like your skin is also reacting to like the heat on it and it's telling your brain to give it some water so you can sweat. So it's a bunch of like not only like physiological processes, but it's also like the thoughts that she put together. Like, and they somewhat seem like clear cut to us. It's like, oh, when I'm sad, I'm sad. When I'm angry, I'm angry. When I'm happy, I'm happy. But like, it's like describe like to a point, like undescribable mixture of so many things going on in your brain that it like takes every last thing in you to continue those processes. And even when you go to sleep, it doesn't stop.
Yes, that's true. So we're going to talk about sleep very briefly. We don't have time to get into it in this course, I'm sorry, but when you sleep, a lot of things stop. Your brain goes into producing lower frequency waves, unless you're dreaming, at which point your brain is producing the same kind of high frequency waves that it should be producing right now as you concentrate on the Zoom in class. So yeah, that unconscious architecture, which is layers 2, 1, and layer 0 that we're learning about next week, all need to be fueled. How about this idea of the implications for the human brain's evolution? Does anyone have any thoughts on what it cost our ancestors to have these giant brains that needed fully 1/5 of the calories that they were forced to acquire each day to survive? How would that have put pressure on Simi's social group?
Wait, Professor, I had a question.
Yeah, thank you.
Does your brain subconsciously work, like all different parts of the brain work simultaneously without subconsciously thinking about it?
Absolutely. And by the end of Unit 2, you will be able to explain that really well. That's kind of the stuff we're going to learn when we do the puppet shows. Like, remember in our puppet show, the question was, is this student of mine, Glinda, going to text her ex? And we saw that there were multiple brain regions like weighing in behind the scenes, and she gave voice to them. So maybe these are more like feelings, body sensations. These are all going to be coming into play. And some of them we have conscious control of, like, we have a little ability to direct ourselves to certain thoughts. People have certain mantras, stuff like that. But a ton of unconscious processes are running all the time, and that our unconscious processes are largely programmed by the culture that we grew up in.
Got it. Okay, thank you.
So does anyone remember what I said about childbirth in the video on why the brain evolved to be so big? I mentioned that we humans, Homo sapiens, we pay a big price for our big brains. Basically, I don't know if you've ever heard any developmentalists refer to human infancy as the 4th trimester, but some scientists use that term to describe the first 3 months of a human infant's life, because we're born with brains that still need to do a lot of development. And compared to other mammals, such as kangaroos, for instance, or horses, baby kangaroo, no, wait, I shouldn't have said kangaroos. They're born really like, let's go with horses. Okay. If you've seen a baby horse be born, which I have because I come from country folk, they fall out the mom and right away they're like standing up, they're ready to eat hay. They're in a very different place than a human infant. And the reason for this is because evolution favored our ability to walk upright. And at the same time, evolution favored socially intelligent creatures with gigantic brains. So Simi's number one likely way to die. Now we know Simi doesn't die. She goes on, she lives to grandma age. She has a valley named after her. But the thing that was taking out Simi's peers most of the time in midlife was childbirth. And that is because evolution has, selected for over and over again these giant, brilliant social brains, like you guys have been identifying all throughout this class. What was required of Simi to succeed and to be an asset to her kinship group required that giant brain, and it literally put her life under threat. But that's how important it was to the survival of early human people groups to have that absolutely giant brain. Okay, I should be back on cam. Hello. We are ahead of schedule, so I'm just going to do one more thing with our last few minutes of class. So we have an example Homo sapien. my wonderful child Archimedes, who has agreed to be discussed in this class. Looking at the questions that you guys submitted, we have a big question about how early experiences shape the nervous system. And in order to get into this, we need to talk about childhood trauma. So we're obviously not talking about my child's childhood trauma here in the Zoom. That's too personal. That's for him to share if you get to know him. But we're going to use two example mammals here we go, to discuss the influence of ACEs, adverse childhood experiences. This is a term hopefully you've heard in human development, on the nervous system. So these are my two cats, Hermes and Apollo. So we're going to play a little game this semester where I let you, the class, ask me questions about the everyday behavior of Hermes and Apollo. And we're going to see how long it takes for you guys to guess which of my cats has childhood trauma, because I do know their adoption history. So in our first discussion day, I invite you to ask questions about the cat's biology, which I'll answer to the best of my ability. Their species, breed, their developmental phase, age at adoption, species typical behaviors. So, if you want to know how the cats feed, what are their aggressive behaviors, how do they act? And we can even talk about the neuroscience of domestication. So somebody already said, are they both potty trained? Yes, they are both potty trained. One cat has peed in the house that I know of. And one of the cats, both of these cats are absolutely pampered. They are living in what I'm going to call Cat Park. Is anyone, you can just answer in the chat, is anyone familiar with the famous Rat Park experiments? Yes, so we've got some familiarity, right? Okay, so we'll talk about Rat Park more in the course, but my cats are living in Cat Park. They're in an enriched environment. So they are both potty trained. They get to walk outside on a leash because I spoiled these two. And so one of the two cats does like to pee outside every time he's out there. They are both males. They are both domestic short hairs. And they are both tabby. That is the tabby marking, which is not part of their species, but just part of their, breed, if you will. Okay, so that's going to be just a fun little game. So you can think about it, what questions you think might help. We're ahead of schedule. We're going to go ahead and end it there. I'll stay in case there's any other questions about the syllabus that have come up. But thank you for your time today. Thank you for your attention to the readings. Now we'll let everybody file out. I find this to be a little more efficient than office hours if I hang out and wait until there's just like 3-4 people left if someone has a quick question. I do keep office hours for this class every Monday from 9 to 10. So, feel free to stop by then and ask about literally anything.
Thank you.
Thank you. So do I have any questions?
Yes. I was wondering if I can speak with you privately on here.
Yeah. Excuse me. Just wait until we're the last people on the Zoom. Who else is here?
Me. I
Okay.
just have so I was just wondering if I missed anything important. I was really struggling with internet connection. So luckily I was here for maybe like 45 minutes, 30 minutes of the class. But yeah, I just wanted to like see if there was anything important I missed.
Okay, everything is important. I do have I can send you a link to an unlisted video where you can watch the entire Zoom.
Okay.
And I also did try to use AI to get like a notes summary from the last meeting. It's not that good, but if you email me, I can send that to you.
Okay, cool. Sounds great. I appreciate it. And I'm so sorry again.
No, that's all right. Everybody gets one freebie absence in this course. It could happen to me at some point.
Okay,
All
thank
right.
you.
Thank you. Okay, so now I only have me and Maria left.
Yes.
Hey,
And I'll just turn my camera on. Hello.
hi there.
Okay, so last week on Tuesday, no, Thursday, I believe. No, on Tuesday I had to leave early the Zoom because I was parking still and I was commuting from San Bernardino. But I stayed for the most part. I'm pretty sure. Yes, I stayed for. I forgot how many minutes. Maybe it was like 10 minutes left.
Yeah.
Um, and then on Thursday, I was on Zoom for maybe 10 minutes. I was only able to participate in one discussion, and then I kind of had like a personal situation going on, and so I had to leave the Zoom just because I didn't want to be logged on and not
Yeah.
participating and just
Yeah.
sitting there when I
Yeah.
knew I wasn't gonna be able to be attentive to it.
Yeah.
And I just wanted to let you know because
Okay.
I feel like it's so early on in the semester,
Yeah.
but it was a really personal thing, but everything's all good now.
Okay, and you know that happens. I noticed, last time you were here, you made two comments in the Zoom, so you were full participant. If something happens in this class, like I don't know what personal situation's going on, but let's just talk about like if it keeps going and your attendance is an
Mhm.
issue, what I ask is that you come to me, and you can get participation credit by watching the Zoom of the class and making a couple of notes. Just know that for the future, but it's no issue.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay, yeah, I just wanted to make sure. Thank you so
Yeah.
much.
Thank you. Nice to meet
And
you.
then, so sorry. Nice meeting you as well. So would that count as PT or what would I do?
If you're in some sort of ongoing situation that affects your ability to attend, then step one is to write me an email about it. It kind of, let me know what's going on. Um, and then we would get together and work out like, do you need an alternate to participate? And it would be something like watching the whole Zoom and making your notes, which I would probably then share with the class as a class resource, and you can make up participation credit that way. But that's just for like an ongoing
Okay.
situation, like you know,
Yeah.
an illness in the immediate family, something like that. Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Okay. Oh, so then, sorry, I'm just a little confused. So then, would I have just lost participation points for that day? Or
Do
because
you see your participation score in Canvas? You either got a 0, a 1, or a 2.
I'm pretty sure I got a 0.
Okay. So let me make
Yes.
and we're talking about 2 classes ago you were here but got a 0.
No, one class ago. So I got participation for the our first day, but the second day in class
Okay,
three.
I'm gonna fix that. And as you saw, so I marked you wrong. I it was my mistake. Is that right?
I mean, I left early, so
Yeah.
not really. I don't know. I just participated in one time, but that was it. I
Okay.
just think I said like
Okay.
yes or no.
Okay. So I'll make sure that your score's corrected. If it doesn't fix on Canvas, then email me.
Okay, thank you. I really appreciate it. But everything should be, I should be all fine now.
Okay. All righty.
Yeah.
Thank you very
Okay.
much.
Nice meeting you. Bye.
Bye.